This is the session number 5 for our LISP chapter. We are going to see how to configure LISP. Let's start with what do we need in order to configure an ETR. ETRs use mapping, so we need to configure these mappings, mapping EIDs to RLOCs with as many RLOCs and EIDs combination that this router may be connected to, a priority and a wait for each RLOC. Then, given the ETR needs to communicate with the map server, sending map register messages, we need to configure the IP of the map server. Optionally, we can configure a default route or a default PTR in order to provide this ETR with an exit point from the LISP network. And then we have to enable the ETR function. This is the configuration for an ETR. We are going to use the command database mapping in order to map an EID to an RLOC. We are going to provide each combination with a priority and wait. Then we are going to configure the IP address of the map server using a key. Each site has a key that provides some level of security. Then we are going to enable the ETR role, and then we can use any of these two commands in order to provide the ETR with an exit point in order to send traffic out of the LISP domain. Let's go for how to configure an ITR. The ITR must know the IP address of the map resolver. We need to enable the ITR role, and then optionally, in order to send the map request message, we can configure a source IP address. This will be the configuration for ITRs. Remember that we need to provide the ITR with the IP address of the map resolver, so we are going to use this command, and we are going to enable the ITR role with this command, and then optionally we are going to set up the source IP address for the map request messages that ITRs send to map resolvers. Now let's think about what do we need in order to configure a map server. We need to provide a key for each site. Then we need to provide the map server with the list of what are the EIDs that will exist per site, and then we will need to enable the map server role. So this will be the configuration for a map server. We are going to enter site mode. We are going to provide a name for each site. We are going to provide a key for the site, and then we are going to let the map server know what are the IDs that exist within each site. Finally, we are going to enable the map server role. Configuring a map resolver is quite easy. We just need to enable the map resolver role with this command. Now let's see what we need in order to configure a proxy ITR. We need to provide the proxy ID with a partial cache with a list of what are the IDs that exist within the LISP network. It also must know what is the IP address of the map resolver, because the proxy ITR is going to send map request messages to the map resolver, and then we have to enable the proxy ITR role. This will be the commands in order to configure a proxy ITR. We are going to use this command map cache for every single EID that exists within the LISP network. Then we are going to let the proxy ITR what is the IP address of the map resolver, and then we are going to enable the proxy ITR role. We can use this parameter in order to establish what will be the source IP address for the messages that the proxy ITR will send. In order to configure a proxy ETR, we most of the times we only need to enable the proxy ETR role. Now, in order to configure a minimal alt server, we will need to create a particular VRF that will be used only for the alt service, and then we will need to enable the alt server role. So this is the command to create a particular VRF for the alt service, and with this command we can enable the alt role, and we are going to establish what is the VRF that this alt service will use. This is a summary of the basic commands that we need in order to configure all roles within LISP network. And this is just the basic commands. There are a lot of more commands out there for Lisp in order to do virtualization, in order to do EID summarization, in order to do multi-homing, and so on. So for ETRs, we are going to let the ETR know what are its mappings with database mapping. We are going to enable the role with IPv4 ETR. We are going to let the ETR know what is the map server IP address. And then optionally, we can set up a default route or a default PETR in order to let the ETR know what is the exit point from the Lisp domain. For ITRs, we are going to enable the role. We are going to let the ITR know what is the IP of the map resolver, and optionally, we can set up this or use this command in order to use a particular source IP address for the map request messages. For map servers, we are going to configure each site name within the Lisp domain with a name, a key, and a list of available EIDs within each site. Then we are going to enable the map server role. For map resolvers, we only need to enable the map resolver role. For proxy ITRs, we are going to use this command map cache for every single endpoint ID that lives within this Lisp domain. We are going to let it know what is the IP of the map resolver, and then we are going to enable the role of proxy ITR. We need to use here what is the, or define here what is the source IP address that the proxy ITR will use in order to send map request messages to the map resolver. And for the proxy ETR, most of the times we only need to set up or enable the role of proxy ETR. And for alt servers, remember that we need to create a VRF for the alt service and then enable the alt role. That's it.